welcome to my channel. My name is Shannon and this is my YouTube channel, Whiskey and Wool. Thank you for joining me today. I have some knitting updates. So what you'll find here is, I just want to reiterate because I have a few new viewers. I've been getting I got a lot of subscribers, a lot of new subscribers from the Vogue Knitting Live recap that I did a couple weeks ago. So I normally do traditional knitting podcasts where I'm, the traditional format, but I sprinkle in different stuff from time to time, some chats about color, and I try to involve you and share with you my process of picking colors and project planning as much as possible, as well as some other kind of, daily, like lifestyle type stuff. Last summer or late spring, I moved into a new apartment in an urban environment. So you'll see, I'm kind of wrapping up most of the renovations that I can do, but I do have a short clip that I'll put in towards the end of the new shower wall panel that I put up, so I don't have to use a shower curtain anymore. And yeah, I have some other exciting stuff happening. I'll talk to you more about that later. But yeah, and then I also will, sometimes we talk about beauty and, products, and we always talk about color and color choices. Lately, I've been sharing a little bit more about the seasonal color palettes, because I found out when I was about 20 years old in a college class that when this seasonal color theory first emerged, as far as I know, it kind of emerged in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, I found out I was a spring, and I don't really know a lot about, I don't think I can actually diagnose people all that well, but I generally recognize fellow springs when I see them. Yeah, I don't follow it religiously. I veer away from it. This is definitely a departure from my palette, though this would be in the autumn palette, which I can borrow from sometimes. Not 100%, but I can borrow some colors from them. Also, life is too short to be incredibly restrictive, but it is nice to know colors that work well for your skin tone and all that. So yeah, we talk about that a little bit here, and but mostly we talk about knitting, and I'm going to try today to catch you up on my projects, where I'm at with projects that many of these projects, this one have been around for quite some time, and have I got derailed by holiday knitting. I did a lot of gift knitting, last minute gift knitting, which I like to gift knit. I love it, but I don't like last minute. So trying this year, I haven't started yet because I still feel a little burned out from this past December. So I will start though soon. I've been sort of queuing up yarn that I have in my stash from projects. Oh, that's another thing you'll find here too. I have a pretty big stash, and I am trying to knit from it as much as possible. That does not mean that I'm not on a yarn diet. I'm not trying to keep, I'm not like making myself knit things that, I don't love with just my yarn. So often I need to, in order to make a project work, I find that I need to go buy another skein or 2 or 3 to combine with what I have in my stash to make it a project that I love, because that's the point, right? You want to knit what you love and all of that. I am not wearing a knit garment today because I live in northern New Jersey. I didn't say this, but I was just gonna share the weather. I'm in northern New Jersey, right next to the Hudson River, which tends to kind of keep us a little on the warmer side than most of the other, I'm very close to the New York City harbor as well. So that kind of brings the temperatures up a bit. So we're having an unseasonably warm day, besides all the climate change and stuff that's going on in the world. So we're having an unseasonably overcast and warm day. It's probably like 55 outside, but it's probably like 85 in my apartment. I have the windows open and fans going to counteract the heating. I live in an old building, beautiful old building, but the furnace is kind of old school, so it takes a little, like even when our super turns the heat down, it takes about 24 to 36 hours for it to respond to that. So, and he told me yesterday he turned the heat down, because when I walked into the building yesterday after work, I heard people's air conditioners going. I was like, uh-oh, this is not good. But I'm resisting doing that. I didn't have to do it last night to sleep, gratefully. But anyway, I'm just in I'm actually in a linen t-shirt. These are t-shirts that I wear. I have probably a dozen of them, and I wear them all the time in the summer months here, because it can get into the 90s. So yeah, I gotta stay cool, and I'm actually kind of hot. I have a sweater on my lap and it's making me warm. So yeah, normally I would wear something. I also don't have any finished objects that fit me. I do have one finished object though. Just trying to think, did I finish my intro? I think so. I said my name right, and I said welcome. Yes, I think so. If I didn't, I'll put it all on screen in editing. So yeah, I have a finished object. I finished the little sweater for my granddaughter Julie. She is 3 years old. I made a mashup of the Anker sweater and the Crescendo Blouse, which is a pattern for adults. I made one for myself, and I just loved the lacy yoke, and I thought it would just work so beautifully for a sweater for Julie. So the yoke pattern in the Crescendo for adults is anywhere from 2 to 4 of these diamond repeats, and for her I only needed 2 to get her yoke size. So I basically knit the Anker sweater and just tweaked the stitch count a little bit to make it work for the Crescendo. And so I ended up, I think it's like 2 or 3 stitches more around in the beginning. And then, I don't know, I kind of fudged it and stuff. I don't know if I took careful notes on what I did, because I didn't have any intention of repeating it in this size for her. And I knit it out of, I think it looks so cute. She's gonna love it. She saw me knitting it. I was visiting them for the holidays. They live in Texas, and she saw me knitting it, and she loves it, and she told me purple was her favorite color, but her dad told me, my son told me her favorite color changes pretty regularly, so, but she tends to really love the things that I give her and make for her, so she's very knit-worthy. The yarn that I used, I held together a strand of suri lace and a strand of fingering weight. They were deep stash. I was really happy to use them. Some stash that's been around for a couple years, few years. One was a suri lace from Lavender Lune, and the other one was a fingering weight like sock yarn from GarnStories. They were both one-of-a-kind colors, but weirdly they worked really well together. And I have a dab left. I have partial skeins left of each of them, and I'm making her a hat, which I'll show you. Oh my goodness, I realized I don't have it around here, but that would move us into whips. So give me a sec. I'm gonna go get it. Okay, here you go. Now I can show you the yarns too. So because I had extra, I like to keep a small project like hat or socks for my on-the-go knitting, and I will take it to work and knit when I am stuck in traffic, and knit when I'm in a meeting like on Zoom, or if I'm in an in-person meeting where I'm not a lead presenter or anything. I will knit on my small projects to help me. It helps me concentrate on what's being said and pay attention, and keeps me from picking up my phone. All those things, which is good. So yeah, so I'm just making her a little Manhattan hat by Tori Yu in the small child size, and it's just a 1x1 rib stitch hat. I've made several before, and it has a particular construction with the top, so I'll have this done, I'm sure, by next time, or maybe in an episode or two. You'd think, you know, they live in Texas, but it gets pretty cold there. Over the holidays, they had colder weather than we did here. These are the yarns. This is the Suri lace from Lavender Lune, and this is the GarnStories fingering weight. So you can see they're pretty decent matches. This one has pops of hot pink, which are really fun in the knit fabric to see. Yeah, so that's my first whip. And it's a new one. It's a new cast on from, I resisted doing it for casting it on, because even though I need a small project to carry around, because I really just wanted to get the two whips that I've had on the needles since October or November, early November. I really want to finish them, but they don't always capture my attention. So I don't know how you manage your own knitting, but I know I knit more if I have multiple projects, because I will be knitting and sometimes I'll be getting, you know, I'll get bored with what I'm making because it's just like, you know, I'm maybe here and I have miles to go on the body. It feels like it. And then what happens when I see, like with this piece, when I got close to getting to the bottom, this was the only thing I knit on. So anyway, yeah, let me talk about what Martha's wearing. Martha is my mannequin. She is my size. I have padded out her bust a little bit to make her my size exactly, so that makes it really nice. Like, she wasn't terribly expensive. They are a few $100s for a good one. And she, you know, it's totally worth it, especially I think if you're a sewist. It's nice to be able to pin on a garment as you're making it, so you can make sure that it's coming out the way you want it to, the way you envision. So anyway, yes, here she is. She's often in my videos. I like to use her to try on my knits as well. But I've got a pretty good idea of what I need in a sweater, so I don't use her all that much for that. But she's great when I'm at this point where I want to just pop it on, step back, and take a look at how it's going to look on me. Of course, you could use your own body as well. So yeah. Anyway, so here we are with this piece. Stripy Unicorn by Joji Locatelli. The yarns are I'm using, it's sport weight yarns, so I'm using British Sport, this right here in the colorway Edith Butler from Les Garçons. So Les Garçons. It's a 75 BFL, 25% Mashup blend, so it's quite nice. I don't know if you can read that. There you go. My second time using their yarn, I really love it. It's got a really nice hand, and I'm curious to see how it'll wear. The first garment I made was the tessellated vest, and yeah, I haven't worn it all that much I haven't worn it enough to see if it's hard wearing. I imagine it is with that BFL though. And the second yarn is Spincycle, dyed in the wool in the colorway Deep Bump. So that is what you're seeing here. I took a clip because I realized that I wasn't going to be able to, unless I took the garment off, I wasn't really going to be able to talk to you about some of the issues and stuff with this. So I'm going to just show you the clip so you can see the issues that I felt like have manifested with this pattern. I got the body done of Joji Locatelli's Stripy Unicorn, and there's a couple things I'm a little worried about, and I just wanted to show you this way. I don't really understand this weird ripple or flare that's happening with the rib. I went down 2 needle sizes. Maybe it has to do with the stockinette trim. I'm not really sure. I'm hoping it'll come out in blocking. I don't really mind the darker green stripe that is happening there, but I did notice when I joined another skein, and when I joined it, the yarn was thinner than the yarn that I had used here, at least at first. So I don't know, again, maybe it'll block out. If it doesn't, I'm gonna rip it back. I'm gonna rip it all the way back to here, and I'm gonna just remove all of this dark green section and start with this color here to knit down and do the ribbing. The other thing I noticed, and I think this is because of the decreases, let's see if you can see it. So you see the hem it raises up on the side seams and then dips down, which is strange for me because I have a really big bust compared to the average person. I shouldn't say everyone else, because plenty of people are bigger than I am. So normally that bust line lifts the front up. But in this case, I am having this front dip. And I do think it's because she has you decreasing here and increasing here along the front. And I think that kind of created this ripple. But again, maybe it'll come out on blocking. We'll see. I mean, this sweater, I know I had said I may knit a second one, but I don't think so. I had problems here with the short rows. It was probably my fault, but in the way that it was in the way that the stripes went and the way that you did the short rows, like you can definitely see it. You can see it on hers too. Again, it may kind of even out a little better in blocking. I don't love it though. I mean, overall it looks great. Like when I stand back like this, it looks pretty good. I don't know what I'm complaining about other than the weird ripple effect that's happening with the ribbing there. We'll see. Welcome back. Yeah, so I don't love this. I don't love this ripple down here. I hope it blocks out. And I don't understand like why. I know rib can look looser if you use the same needle size, but I went down 2 needle sizes. I'm super confused about that, about what happened here. I wonder if it's because it's a every other row thing. So I don't know. I will definitely be blocking it. After I block it, if I'm still having issues with this rippling thing, I'm gonna rip it back out to the top of where I joined the next skein, and I'm gonna cut out this dark part, and I'm gonna start here and finish this, and then I'm gonna do the ribbing in just the leg Garçon. I think that might solve the problem. We'll see though. Maybe, fingers crossed, it works out. But I mean, otherwise, I think it's going to be a pretty sweater. I think I'm going to wear it a lot. I love sport and fingering weight sweaters, especially I tend to run hot, so anything heavier than DK I'm generally not interested in, or if I have 1 or 2 of those, that's plenty. They're not things that I'm wearing every day. I'm just wearing on like super cold days, which we do have, but not every day, like not other regions that have really, really cold weather. So since I run hot, I don't really want to. I like this weight. I guess is what I'm saying. All right, moving on to whips. This is, I want to share with you. I just lost the mini skein. It just went rolling right across the floor. I am working on my second Rumble Raglan by Lydia Morrow, and I have passed the sleeve split. I am making one where I'm using one solid color, this peach color, with a mixture of mini skeins that are making a gradient from like a lime green into deep turquoise. So I'm with this color here that ran away, and then after that I will use this color and then this color. I do have one more color darker than this that I may need to use. We'll see. A lot of the struggle for me with this sweater was trying to figure out the change, the repeat of like what repeat did I want, because Lydia leaves it open-ended, so you can do what you like. She gives you a suggestion if you want to do a 3-color version, which a 3-color version would pretty much be like 3 partial skeins of fingering weight yarn. It's a fingering weight sweater. which is great. Like, so you could use 3 skeins. This is what got me excited about this, because I have a lot of single 1 skein of a color in my stash, a fingering weight, that I had purchased with this idea that I was going to make all of these shawls, all these really cool, like, multicolored shawls that were out. And after I made about 6 of them, I was done, but I have all this yarn. So I got excited about this pattern when I realized that you could use 3 colors, 3 single skeins of sock yarn, and I have a lot of that. So this was interesting to me, to do something like this where I'm combining the mini skeins up to equal 1 color, and then this peach yarn is the other color. I thought this might happen, but I do think I am going to run out of my peach yarn. This peach yarn is a hand spun yarn from my stash. I spun it maybe like a year and a half ago. It is by from fiber from Olann Hand Dyed in Ireland, the indie dyer and mill that is now on hiatus again for she had another baby, I think, so she went on hiatus. So yeah, I spun this from that. I had about a little over 400 yard skein, and that should be enough, but I think I'm knitting a longer garment than called for, so I may not have enough to make the length I want. And if that happens to me, I think what I'm going to do is just go right into rib and just knit solid in ribbing and have a long rib waist. I think that's what will happen. I am knitting, so if you know this pattern, if you've looked at it yourselves, the pattern is meant to be worn with, the sweater's meant to be worn with negative 10 inches, not percent, inches of ease. Although doing a percent of negative or positive ease would be pretty cool. That might get us closer to what is the perfect positive ease for most body types. I don't know. Just kind of a thought that crossed my mind. I'm a former knitwear designer, so I used to knitwear design for the former commercial knitwear designer. I used to do knitwear design for a large corporation in New York City, 7th Avenue, Garment Center, blah, 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 that. So I have some knowledge of specs and stuff. And I do design my own knit patterns, hand knit patterns, but I'm perfectly happy to knit someone else's pattern if it's suiting my needs. And the only time I, roll up my sleeves and knit something is when I'm looking for, like, make my own pattern, is when I'm looking for, what I'm looking for is no one's designed it yet. So I just need to do it. But yeah, that doesn't happen very often. So yeah, anyway, I am knitting it so that it's about +2. So I'm making a much bigger size than what I should. I'm actually making the size 6, which is the size that Lydia is wearing in the picture I popped on screen. So to have it not have any negative ease, because negative ease with my middle-aged body is a little unnerving. I'm uncomfortable with it. I am just uncomfortable with it, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not, if you're comfortable with it in your middle-aged body or whatever, you should go for it. It's just not something that I know I can wear to work, and I, won't feel, it's not something that I want to wear even when I'm home by myself. So I try to, even the clothes I wear when I'm home alone or I only wear around the house, I want to feel good. So I wear things that make me feel good. And if something doesn't make me feel good, if it's pulling or binding me somehow in an uncomfortable way, I bag it up and donate it because can't be bothered with that. Anyway, it's coming along. I love it. I love the colors. I think the colors are really good for me. I think these are very typical spring seasonal colors. And we'll see what happens with the yarn. But I do know too, like when I have a little bit of a doubt about is something gonna work, it makes me want to knit on it less. But I've been pushing myself to get, I want to get to the point where I run out of the peach. Like, where is that point going to be? Like, am I going to have enough of that peach yarn? And the mini skeins are just really all assorted. The one that rolled away is from Kim Dye's yarn. I don't really know where some of these other ones are from. You know, you pick up mini skeins here and there, and I ended up with quite a collection, and I threw them into a bell jar, and there they sit, waiting for me to knit them into things. Okay, those are my continuing cast-ons. I do have one new cast-on, which I think you will all be very interested in. I'll get to that in a minute. This is a cast-on that I started on New Year's Day, and I made pretty significant progress. I absolutely love knitting this. This is like such an enjoyable knit. I don't know why. I think it's, I feel like every time I pick it up, if it's an evening and I'm watching TV or something like that, sitting around in the evening, I'll just, you know, put on a movie or a show, knit, and then I look down and I'm like, oh, I knit like 1.5 inches. It's really great. So I think I'm knitting it on US size 6 needles, which is helping, or maybe 7. It might be 7. I don't remember. I'll correct myself on screen. I'll look it up after in editing. But what is this? This is the Scottish check by Marianne Easiger. Easiger. I think I'm saying that right. I practiced last time. Easiger. She is a knitwear designer. I think she started designing sometime in the 60s, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there. But I believe she, I don't actually know her story. So let me not try to speculate. So I don't really know her story, but I do have her book. Is it called A Knitting Life? It's called A Knitting Life. And this was a pattern that I've had my eye on for quite some time. And of course it was designed with Easiger yarns. And she, yeah, you were meant to hold, it's fingering weight, mosaic stitch. I've had this black and white yarn in my stash for a long, long time. I bought it at Rhinebeck, I think in 2017, I want to say. So a long, long while. I had this idea of knitting another mosaic sweater that I ended up never casting on for various reasons, like we often do. I was project planning too far in advance, so I lost interest in making that particular sweater. And yeah, I've been like sort of looking for another like black and white pattern to make with this yarn. The yarn is from Green Mountain Spinnery, and I don't have a ball band. So Green Mountain Spinnery, the colors are natural white sheep and natural black sheep. So although it looks black, it's actually kind of a deep dark chocolate brown, almost very close to the mirror frame behind me. Touch darker, and of course like heathered, because that's what natural wool does. And then that just natural white. I think they both have Spanish names. The yarn base is called Lana, and I think this has got Blanco, I think is the name, and I think this is called Muy Oscuro, which I guess means very dark. Very dark. I'm guessing. And the white I'm holding with a strand of mohair. I have from my stash. This is all from my stash, which just feels so good to like be able to knit a sweater out of my stash. I'm using Ito Sensei. It's so interesting to me, like with this white mohair. It is this is the 4th sweater that I've made using white mohair. I've had a couple other white mohairs that I've used. It's not all been Ito, but if you could tell me when I'm shopping that white mohair is something that I would use in 4 sweaters, I would tell you you're crazy. Like I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to use white mohair. But it's surprising how useful white mohair can be, especially when you're holding it with a strand of like a yarn that has some color. Yeah, so really love it. Love the stitch. Stitch is very easy to memorize and pretty easy to knit. It's just a series of knitting and sometimes purling and slipping stitches. The pattern is written in pieces, as you might imagine, from an older pattern. I think this pattern was published in the 80s maybe, or in the 90s. I have to look it up. But yeah, it is knit in pieces, and I modified it to knit it in the round because I don't really like seaming, and as a former knitwear designer, I don't see the point of seaming. Like, it's knit fabric, so why are you seaming it? I don't really think it does much. People think it adds stability. It can introduce instability just as easily. So I will be knitting it flat once I reach the armscye area, armhole area. I'll be knitting it flat, the front and the back, and then I don't know how she has us knit the sleeves. I assume they're also flat, so I'll probably knit those in the round too. Actually, it's a drop shoulder, so the design is a drop shoulder. It's kind of like you're just knitting a rectangle, and then you're knitting these other sort of trapezoid shapes that become the sleeves. So I may be able to cast on from the armhole and knit down if I can. If I see that I can do that easily, that's what I'll do to prevent having to seam. So then I'll just really have shoulder seams. So that is that's the Scottish check by Marianne Esayer. Yeah, I do have a new cast on. Confused over where it is. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Nope, that's not it. Oh, it's under my chair. I'm like, where did it go? I cast on Hohi's other new design, or latest new design, her Milton cardigan, which she launched 2 weeks ago at Vogue Knitting Live. And if you watched my Vogue episode, you know that I was shopping for a mohair to go with some hand spun that I spun last year. This is by Sarah of Green Goat Ranch, the fiber, and then I spun it in rainbow order. I bought a countdown calendar. I think it was 6 days. I believe it was 6 days, and she called it Beach Rainbow. So I said on this channel that I was planning to spin it in, I wanted to try to work out rainbow order, and she commented or DM'd me and told me the rainbow order. So I was able to do it in the way that she specified it. So yeah, so I thought this would be really great for that sweater. And then the Milton, it alternates 4 rows of fingering weight yarn with 4 rows of mohair. So I went to Vogue to shop for a mohair that I thought would go nicely, and I kind of wanted something that was like a blush. I felt like it should be a pastel because this does have a lot of color going on in it, and I didn't want the mohair to be competing with this yarn all that much. I wanted it to kind of help hang it together in a very sort of neutral pastel-y way. So I ended up buying from Lobby and Amay's booth, or from Brooklyn General Store where Lobby and Amay's yarn was. I ended up buying this mohair. It is the colorway Heliodor. Yeah. And it's in my size, which I think is, I'm knitting a 4, I believe. You can just use 1 skein of mohair, and I think after that you start needing more when you go up higher, in higher sizes. So anyway, this is the sweater I got. I was compulsively knitting until I got to the armhole split. It is a top-down sweater with this lovely shawl collar. You can kind of get an idea of how the rainbow is happening in the... It's very subtle, and I actually really like it. When I was looking at the cake, I was like, you really can't see the rainbow all that clearly, but in the knitting, it's really pretty. It's just really, really pretty. Because when I spun it, I did 3 pretty much matching skeins. So each hunk of fiber I divided into threes so that I would have 3 skeins that pretty much did the same thing. But generally what happens when you do that as a spinner, you do end up with a little bit of extra, and so on one side or the other you'll end up with a slightly different kind of mishmash. And I think that's what happened with me with one of these skeins. So this I knit the collar and the right front, collar and right front using one skein, and then I stopped with that skein. And I think what I'll do with that skein is use it to knit the sleeves. I stopped because I could see the color progression was going nicely, and I knew, so if you knit, basically what you do with this, you knit this short collar piece, and then it's almost like making a crescent shawl, I think. You knit this short collar piece, you knit it one way, then you knit it the other way, and then you cast on stitches for the one front, and then stop, put those on hold, and then you cast on stitches for the back, and then you stop and put those on hold, and then you cast on stitches for the front, for the other front, and then you join them all the way around. So I did all of that and then just knit in the round for about 4 rows and stopped knitting on this so that my other work would get done, like my other pieces would get done. So why am I explaining all this to you? So that you understand, like, this collar piece and this one front were all one color, one skein, and you can see those color transitions pretty nicely, like yellow to green to turquoise, and it was starting to get into like a peachy color. So I stopped, put that aside, and then I picked up, for the back, I picked up a different skein, and you can see, like, there were these really bright red stripes that emerged that I didn't have in the other skein. So this is sort of that wonky, you know, beginning of a skein, and then it gets into the yellow a little bit and goes into the greens and blues, and you can see that continuation over here on the left front. And now I'm just getting to those deep dark blues that you see over here, just getting to that section. So I thought that would give the sweater a little bit more continuity, and now my intention is to just keep knitting with this skein and go to the next skein, the third skein, when I need to, if I need to. I don't know if I will or not. I don't really have a good grasp on how long I'm gonna make this sweater because her version is very long. I don't know if I want it that long. Definitely like past, like to my upper thigh, I think. I don't know how far down my upper thigh. I think she kind of has it go to mid thigh. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I may stop like just as I get to that beginning of my upper thigh. I'll see how it goes. But it's been so fun. What a great. It's just such a fun, it's very addictive because I'm like, oh, what's the next stripe coming? Oh, cool. It's this, you know. I do not love knitting the mohair rows because it's mohair on a US size 4, mohair lace on a US size 4 needle. It's a little slippy. Probably what I should do is use a wooden needle, but I'm stubborn that way, and I like the slickness of the metal needles, even though it means my mohair is slipping along. But yeah, I recommend this, definitely recommend the pattern, and I am really enjoying the way it's working out. I had made her Elton. I made it in a blue gradient, and I actually made a second Elton out of just fingering weight, and I could see doing the same with this with this pattern, like knitting a second version that's just all fingering weight, and maybe like some really cool hand spun that I have, or something like that. I actually think, like, if I go by the yardage, that the pattern calls for, I should have enough of this yarn left to make a sweater for my granddaughter. So that may be the next sweater that I put on the needles for her, because it is, it's going to get warm. It's going to be warming up in their region pretty soon. But nevertheless, like they air condition like crazy there because it's so hot. So it's good for her to have some sweaters to throw on there. But that is all of my my knitting, I think. Yes, all my knitting. I do have a tiny bit of stash acquisitions that I got. I could not resist joining the Dragon Horde Yarn Club for, what did she call it? She had a name for it. Her book club, I think. And each month she has a theme. And she, you know, she likes fantasy romance novels, basically. So this one was based on Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I read that book last summer, loved it, and read Iron Flame when it came out. And I couldn't resist like buying the January Club because I knew it would be based on the character Violet from that series. And I actually talked about this series in the Vogue episode because Lauren and I stumbled upon a yarn dyer who has the license to make colors from those books, and it's so interesting because I was thinking to myself, their Violet was very different from this Violet, and I think her name is Tristan, the dyer from Dragon Horde. She did not call it dragon, she called it, it's a quote from the from the book, I think. I appreciate the elevation to deity. Oh, I couldn't read that word, sorry, old eyes. I need my glasses, which are way across the room. I appreciate the elevation to deity, but my name will do. And I'm pretty sure that's inspired by Violet. It's quite different from the one that we saw. I ordered DK because I like to knit DK weight socks. So single skeins of DK are welcome in my stash because I know I'm going to knit through them. And I'll be knitting some DK socks for my adult sons and their partners and my granddaughter this year, as I have the last couple years. Tristan included a reading list, which was a nice touch, of the theme Dragon Riders. And we also got a sticker from her yarn, which is really cool. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it is Tristan. I just found her card. Yep. I've never met her. I saw her from afar at one show or another, but I've never actually met her or seen her vend before. But yeah, I'm a fan. I like this. This will be great for I have two. My one son and his wife are kind of, I don't know what people call them these days, but they're sort of, they like a lot of black and dark themes and stuff like that, so I think this will be a good color for one of them. Yeah, I think that's all my yarn related things. I did want to talk to you, if you were here a couple episodes back when I talked about graying, becoming you know, going gray, as we all do, and what to do about it, because I know that I have gray hair coming through the top. I've been a blonde my whole life. I started to lighten my blonde to pretty much what it is now in my mid-30s, because I was naturally blonde all the way through my 20s. And then I just noticed it getting darker and darker, and it's pretty much stayed the same color. So like this color that you're seeing underneath, this is my natural color. This like dark blonde, light brown color. But I am graying up here, and so a couple episodes back I talked about, I asked like, what do you all do? And it was so informative. Thank you so much for commenting on that. I learned so much. And it gave me some things to think about when you think about like, you know, changing a hair color, because like what became clear to me was that I couldn't keep doing the color that I was doing, and that because what, you know, my stylist's inclination was to take it more and more ashy, and my skin tone doesn't do well with ashy colors. It just makes me look like more gaunt, and it really brings out like the dark circles under my eyes, and like any purple or red splotches on my face just get magnified when I wear ashy colors. So yeah, I wasn't interested in that. So I talked about it, and kind of similar to what I'm saying now, and I saw my stylist yesterday for the next time, like the next time I saw her, because I saw her just before the holidays, and then I saw her again. So I might have talked about it in late December if you're looking for that episode where I talk about graying hair. And so what we decided to do, what I think is the right move, is to let some of my natural hair color come through more, because instead of covering it. So let some of those gray strands show, and let some of that light brown, dark blonde show through more, and make it more like, instead of drowning it all out, make it more integrated, and do, you know, some lighter highlights as needed. And I think that's the right thing to do. And then that way we'll kind of like, so she's progressing me towards that. So she did that by like starting with a slightly darker blonde than I normally get, and a little more neutral, so less golden colored, but more in that neutral, like could be golden, could be ashy, but not in that ash, not in the ash zone at all. So she has this whole stretch of colors. I think it's 9 shades. So she started me that are like in that neutral beige, she called it, section, and she started me with a mixture between the 2 lightest ones. And next time, after she did it, she's like, okay, next time we're gonna just use the second to lightest one. And meanwhile, she's progressively removing how much of the partial foils that she does, so she's doing fewer of them to let the natural color kind of come through. So I'm excited to see that transition, and I think having a little bit darker blonde is definitely going to be more flattering as I continue to age. And yeah, maybe eventually I can just stop dyeing my hair completely and just go natural and just see what happens. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited though. And I think it's, you know, you can always go back. That was what we were saying yesterday. Like, oh, you can always go back. So no concerns there. Yeah, so tell me what you think. I'd be interested in, I think it's the right way to do it, and I think a slow progression, like she said to me, it's probably going to take about a year for you to get completely where you're describing you want to be. So that's fine. I'm in no hurry. I just felt like I needed to start heading in that direction. Having some water because it's so freaking hot in here. Also, I didn't share with you the latest home improvement project that I did. I replaced my shower curtain with a shower glass panel. So I have a little clip of that. And I didn't show you, but I also, maybe I can grab a clip in when I'm editing, but I also got grout paint, and I painted the grout in the bathroom too because it was so dirty. I couldn't get it clean, and I don't know, the grout paint has worked pretty well, and supposedly it holds up for, you know, like 10 years or something. So we'll see what happens. I mean, my tile there are cracked tiles. It does need to be replaced, but I know it's something that I could do on my own, but I'm unlikely to do that. So it may be something that I have the company that when I do a kitchen renovation, because I do have a kitchen renovation on the horizon. It's about a year away, but I'm starting to put feelers out. I'm gonna, my first step is to work with a kitchen designer to get a plan for what will work in the space I have. Because my kitchen's pretty small. So yeah, anyway, I'll show you that clip. And what I'm doing this coming week, home improvement wise, is that I went ahead and decided, like, for my second closet, I'm going to put in some freestanding shelves in there, because right now it's just an empty, it's a box with one shelf. It's like a, you know, it's a closet that's 6 feet wide and, you know, 2 feet deep, and it's just got one shelf. And so everything in there is piled on top of each other. And so I just decided, and it's the reason that I'm not going to hang shelves like I did in the other two closets is because this one is cedar lined, and what really needs to happen down the road is that the cedar comes out and sheetrock is put in, because someone at some point put a roof in, a ceiling in that's lower than the ceiling of the apartment by 2 feet. So I'm losing 2 feet of storage. So I just decided that instead of hanging shelves in there, the way to go would be to just put freestanding shelves in. So I have those two freestanding shelf units coming this weekend. So if they come, they're supposed to come today. I don't know if I believe them. So if they show up today, then I'll spend tomorrow working on cleaning out that closet. That closet has everything that I don't use on a regular basis. So it's got like my Christmas decorations and old photos and some jewelry supplies, because I'm a jeweler as well as a knitter. I don't make a lot of jewelry, but I can make my own jewelry. So yeah, I just need to clean it out. I also know there's stuff in there that I probably need to just donate or purge in some way, shape, or form. So I'm interested to see that, and I'm also, you know, a little hopeful that I might, like, in creating a shelving situation in there, I will end up having more room to store stuff. Because right now it seems, yeah, and there's space. When I look in there, I can see that there's space, like there's empty space. It's not like every inch is full. It's just that it's kind of impossible to put more stuff on top of more stuff in there. So that's exciting. So I'm hoping that, and I'm kind of like this with the closets after that. I don't think I'm going to bother with the bigger doors and things like I had decided. My hall closet that I renovated last month, or yeah, in January, is really working well. And the only thing I can say is that I have too many clothes in there, so I probably need to edit some of that out. And just, like, you know, donate things that I'm not wearing very frequently. So yeah, so I'm happy with that, and I have a feeling that this other closet will be fine once I get the shelving units in there, and as long as I purchased the right type of unit. So I think I did. And then the last, you know, it's so interesting, like, as you live in a space, how you kind of look around and go, oh yeah, this, oh yeah, that, oh yeah, this. So I realized that, like, with this you know, heating situation here in this apartment, in the kitchen and in the bathroom are heat pipes that come through the space, and I can't shut them off. So those are always generating heat if the furnace downstairs is on. So I realized that a ceiling fan in the bathroom would be really nice. So I think I found a small, like, 12-inch ceiling fan. I did find one. I really want white, but it's the one I found is black or stainless steel, and since everything in that bathroom is black, aside from the shower fixtures, which that's on my list when I get a plumber in here to have them do that. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do black since I couldn't find white. But I think it'll look really nice, and it'll help me circulate that heated air a little bit better. Because the heat from those two rooms is so strong that I can keep the heat off in my bedroom and living room, no problem, unless it drops below freezing, and it doesn't drop below freezing for long periods of time. It usually does at night, but only for a few hours, and then it's right back up again. So And I'm sleeping, and I like sleeping in the cold, so that works for me. Yeah, so that's about it. That's what I've been up to. I was in the Hamptons last weekend. That was fun. I felt very thrown off my routine, though, because I hadn't been away for a month, and today I'm just like, oh my god, I have so much to do. But we'll see. I really need to catch up on grading for my classes. Yikes, because I didn't get anything done last week, but now I'm behind, a week behind. Not fun. I'm a university professor these days, so I gave up the garment industry for that. Much better, nicer lifestyle, to me anyway. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. I've just been super busy at work as well, so it's been a little stressful these days, but you know, we get through. Makes life exciting and interesting. Podcast. Oh, check out my friend Lorian. She started a new podcast on our new knitting channel here on YouTube called Yarn Love Turtle, and that's also her Instagram name. Yeah, her first episode's out, and I think that's a great move. It's brilliant. I think being on YouTube gives you so much a much wider audience than you can get on Instagram. Especially Instagram's really just a shit show lately, isn't it? I mean, I just like, it's not working. I know a lot of the small businesses complain that they're not really getting the reach that they used to, and how frustrating it is and stuff, because even if you're subscribed, you're not necessarily getting people's feeds. So yeah, I haven't been on Instagram all that much. I post maybe once or twice a week, but not very often over there. So yeah, check her out. Check out her channel. All right. Take care. Have a great next couple weeks, and I will be back with more updates. I hope to have some finished objects. I hope this is done by then, and maybe another one too. Who knows? Take care. Bye.